stand as one, walk with thousands.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dad Bods and Beards. We've got a fun one today. We've got Dan Young in studio here with us, and I'll have him introduce himself in a second. But before we get going, as always, wanted to highlight our primary sponsor, Mountain Ops. By the time you guys are seeing this, we are going to be long done with the marathon and the half marathon that we've been training 6 or 7 months.
You
for.
have. Dude, I've been about 4 months.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've been training since October. Utah Valley Marathon. I've got 20 miles in my training this Saturday.
I have 10.
That's good.
I love it. I've gotten so into running.
And I hate it.
Yeah. But no, it's been so good for the mental health. I've dropped 60 pounds. He's dropped just over 70.
Good work.
Thanks.
And we've been fueled by Mountain Ops for a lot of that. They give us everything from the pre-workouts to the hydration to a bunch of other supplements along the way. You guys know, as always, use code DADBODS at checkout. You'll get 20% off, and then every purchase goes towards feeding families in need. So check that out. And without further ado, Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
You are a man with many, many hats.
Not too many hats now, really. Just I got good people I work with.
Well, you've probably delegated some of those hats over the years, right?
Yes, good humans. Good. Entrepreneurs.
So for anybody who doesn't know you, can you give us a quick snapshot of what you do, what you used to do, all that stuff, and then we'll tear into it.
So Utah people know me from PCLaptops.com.
Yeah.
It's one of the first .coms out
And
there.
and PC laptops with the commercials, I have to ask.
Yeah.
That's a persona, right? That you created. That's not.
I'm pretty excited. I mean,
No, you're super. Like I love your personality, everything. But yeah, I think it's really fun to see.
PC Laptops, Xidax, Xidax. We build like high performance gaming computers, if you like video games and creatives use it. And then uglyunicorn.com, crypto hedge fund. We started that in 22 myself and Bridger Pennington, and it's full, but we're launching Fund 2 next month. So
That's cool.
And that's one of those hedge funds that if you know about it, it's because you can probably get involved in it, right?
yeah, we try to educate people on social media because a lot of people want to invest in crypto, but they're getting scammed by all these Ponzi schemes and network marketing Ponzi's and
Dude,
Utah's really big.
I had a
on
good
that.
little wallet going with Voyager. And then they went bankrupt, and I got pennies back for what I put into it.
that blows, huh?
And so it puts a bad taste in your mouth because
Yeah.
you're like, I also was dumb and I fell into the Shiba Inu one, but I made some money on that one while it was doing good, and then everyone went. So
Well, maybe it'll go up again.
I once thought about it.
Well, the eyebrow raise is like maybe it'll go up again. But no, I need to get back into it. I have a little bit.
Oh, good. Well, I'll help you guys any way I can.
Sure.
That's
and,
awesome.
and the viewers, help you guys.
Yeah. So what was the kickoff of when did you start
Kind
PC
of
laptops?
start out with before you were 16 when you were living in, because you moved to Utah when
Yeah.
you were 16, but you kind of started with humble beginnings, and that's kind of where I wanted to start. It's kind of like how kind of you evolved into who you are.
So I was broke, immigrant Chinese parents, and they came here to escape communism during the World War II time. And my dad actually worked as a janitor. My mom was a bank teller. So super humble beginnings. And I remember seeing my mom cry counting change because we were trying to get money to buy food, and just pissed me off because I'm like, I hate seeing her suffer. And they were always fighting about money. And so that kind of sparked my interest of, okay, I have to make a lot of money so she never has to cry for that reason, at least, that was the big motivator. My dad became this artist. He went to Pasadena Art Center, and he became a pretty famous artist. He ended up designing Apple computers, instruction manuals, and packaging
Okay.
back when they were new.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is they did trade work. He's like, hey, these two guys traded me some computers to design their packages. I'm going to give you one. And so that was like 1977. I was super little. And I got my first Apple II computer. That's how I learned computers, right?
Oh, way cool.
Became a teenager, loved to party, have fun, drink, all that kind of stuff. Got in huge trouble, landed in juvenile hall for 6 months, which was interesting. Really? And that 6 months of silence,
Yeah.
because I was in solitary most of the time, helped me kind of, one, detox out of all my drinking and smoking habits, and just realize how mortal I was, and I wasn't untouchable, and But I'm glad it happened at a young age. And then I got exported to Utah. My sister worked for the University of Utah. My parents were like, "You're out of here."
So your parents didn't move here with you?
No. Well, they did later. It's kind of the punchline. And so my sister took me in, and I got a job at the swap meet.
Yeah.
And I set up a little table. I was selling Ginsu knives. I put my karate gi on, and I would sell Ginsu knives, brass knuckles, pepper gas, and make $1,000 to $2,000 a day, selling this stuff, just doing a show for people. And it was just really weird. I was like, hey, there's something to this, right?
Yeah.
And then got another job in the mall at Radio Shack, and that's where
What
I met
mall?
Fashion Place.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was the big catalyst, because there's this old guy he comes in with his ham radio, ham radio. He's like, dude, it doesn't turn on. Can you fix it? And I changed the fuse in it, and it worked. And he said, hey, do you need a mentor? And I'm like, oh, how does that work? He goes, well, my wife passed away, and I just get steps in the mall, but I sold my company for over $1 billion, and I just like helping
And he's
people.
asking to fix her hand radio?
Yeah, he's really frugal.
That's amazing. It seems like that's the case.
Yeah, so we sat down and we went to lunch every week, and in 3 years I made my first $1 million.
Wow.
Because he's just like, dude, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. It's not that tough, and he did. So I like to share some of what I learned from there and along the way to where I got.
That's what we've found along the way of all the different influential people we've sat down with. We've sat down with, many
Lots of-
multimillionaires, a billionaire. We've talked to all these different entrepreneurs. And every single one of them is like, it has the pay it forward mentality, or the what can I add in value without expecting anything in return. And it always comes back to the mentor and just kind of passing that along. So that's really cool that he just flat out asked you, like, hey, do you want a mentor? To just happen to be, this guy
but he's
that's-
always breaking his electronics, so he's
Yeah.
like, it was trade work.
It was trade work, yeah. Hey, I'll give you advice. You just fix my crap. But
Fair deal.
so that's pretty cool. So how old were you when you made your first $1 million?
23?
Oh,
23?
dude. That's nuts. I think back to like 23
I
for
was still
me,
in
right? I'm
college.
like, I was just like, just had gotten married, and then 2-3, literally like a month later, got fired from my job. So what's that like, going from, like you said, seeing your parents, struggling through that, grinding, doing all this stuff, going, like you said, going through the system a little bit, all that stuff, to where literally a matter of years later, you're in a completely different playing field.
Yeah, it was just a lot of hard work, and it's just grind and consistency. That's what the old guy taught me. He said, grind and consistency. He goes, you're going to have a lot of pain, expect it, and know how you're going to react psychologically when those obstacles come up. And you don't, you see a lot of these entrepreneurs say you have to fail 100 times to be successful. Untrue. You just need good mentors, and you need to consult with them when you have a problem. And they'll usually tell you what you need to do. And if you do it, your chances are a lot better. Whereas some guys just blindly fail because they're not consulting experts before they make a decision.
So
That's an
that's one-
interesting
oh, sorry.
perspective. I didn't even think of it that way. Go ahead.
No, that's one thing is, so Corey Bonner, he's been on the show.
Oh, he's cool.
I love
He's
Corey.
got a serious beard.
Yeah. No, and so he's invested with Copper Johns.
He's got the best beard.
and I
He's
love
my
him.
running buddy. He and I go running together on Saturdays.
And I'm really good. I'm really good at the creation process. I'm good at certain things, but when it comes to finances, I struggle. Not because my brain just doesn't want to think that way. I don't know what it is, and so I'm like, Corey, help me here. Help me understand what's going on. And so he's like, yeah, you need this, this, and this. I'm like, that was easy. Like, that was simple. But it's just like, I loved how you said this, because everything you just said was so true, because like, this has been the hardest 2 months of my life when coming to business.
Yeah.
Because we have grown exponentially to the point where I'm just like, I need capital. Like we're growing so fast now that I can't keep up, because you have POs coming out and you're not getting that in, but you still have to supply them the product. You're just like, what am I going to do? And that's very stressful for me.
Yes.
And so I've learned a lot from a lot of people, but Corey especially. Corbin Church, he's been on the show. Maybe you eventually too.
Yeah.
But you mentioned a question that I really was excited to ask you is, someone who is making, there's dual incomes. Everyone's pretty much working, like husbands, wives are all working together, making less than 100,000 to 100,000 combined. how do you get those guys who are living check to check, paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes even when they get paid, they get negative just because that's how life is right now. How do you get them to be where they're financially, they're able to breathe?
Yeah.
And then maybe they are able to invest. Maybe they are able to do all that kind of stuff. Because to me, it required me to just get off my butt and just work. And I mean work. But some people, that's all they do is work, and they still can't get ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the problem that most people have is they want to live this life, this Instagram life, and have nice cars and big home and all this. And really, you don't need all those things in the beginning. They're nice to have when you can write a check 20 times, 100 times over. But if you can't, just seriously eat minimalist food. Live on eggs, some grass-finished beef, ground beef, right? And eat 1,500 calories a day, man. Like, you can live literally for like less than $10 a day for food. It's not that that you need to, you don't need to go out and have all this like Instagram selfie in Bali and Thailand and all this garbage, because I'm just as happy hanging out with you guys as spending 200 grand on a vacation. It doesn't really, you are where you are, right? And so one thing is first is write down all your assets and your liabilities on a spreadsheet. Just use Excel, right? Punch a big column on there and know how much it costs every month. We call it a burn rate to operate. So if it costs you 3, 4, 5 grand, whatever it is, 10 grand a month to live, look for areas that you just don't need. Like, do you have Netflix subscriptions and you could use your brother-in-law's and give them like $2, $5 a month and chip in your Apple iCloud or whatever. Like, these things add up, and most people can squeeze out an extra $500, $600 a month, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, just by deleting wasteful habits.
Oh yeah,
right.
Because sometimes though that Netflix is like, you had a hard day, and I don't want to give. I don't want to give that up.
and that's why right there.
The mistake people make though is they save money. Saving is dumb.
Okay.
You want to invest money, and so an old term that my original mentor taught me and a few others is just dollar cost average. Treat your investments like a bill. So let's say you want to buy Bitcoin and stocks. Or let's say you want to buy, this is not financial advice, but let's say you want to buy Microsoft, Amazon, and NVIDIA every month, right? You would say, okay, I'm going to buy $50 of each every single month. Comes out of my checking account and it accumulates and accumulates. There's old Sean Whalen, Lion's Line Sheep guy. So I spoke in 2018 to all his lion dudes, and they're like, who's this crazy Chinese guy? And I'm like, they're like, what are you buying? I go, it's not financial advice, but I like this company called NVIDIA because I believe it's the future of AI and things like that. And this is when AI was just percolating, right? And I had 3 of his guys actually approach me. A couple invested in our fund. One guy put 10 grand in during his Lions call. 10 grand. It turned to $470,000 by 2023, which is pretty cool from 10 grand. So people think, to make $500,000, $1 million, you need great capital. You just need to be deployed in the right investments, and you have to consistently invest.
I like that of like treating it like a bill, right? Because the bill almost kind of gives you a little bit of anxiety, especially if you're, everyday average, middle class, lower middle class, even upper middle class. Sometimes those they're kind of like pain points a little bit, right? Like I got to pay this. You got to treat it like a necessity.
Sure.
So let's say you're past that point. Say you do have, a business that you've started, or you do have a little bit of liquid, or you do have some, something to invest. How do you go from, like we were talking about this a little bit before the camera started and with Tyson's question too, how do you go from maybe having that 5, 10, 20, or even more that you could invest somewhere and turn it into something bigger, quicker? Like what would, like you said, turn to the camera, not financial advice, whatever you have to do, but like what would be from your perspective to that?
Usually, at this point in time, stocks have been very popular for a long time, real estate, the old, type of investments. But blockchain and cryptocurrency is a very cool thing to be into. Not buying like crap coins and meme coins, but good fundamental projects. That's what our hedge fund manages, Ugly Unicorn. That's a great way for a lot of people to build wealth at an accelerated level. Interesting enough, though, a lot of people say crypto is a scam, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a scam. But back that original mentor told me to buy Amazon and Apple computer back in the 90s. And the interesting thing is in 2001, Apple and Amazon dropped 80% in 1 year. Dropped.
Really?
And everyone's like, I told you it was a scam. You're an idiot. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to keep buying my few $100 a month of it and we're going to go, you know? And it's split so many times. It's grown so many times. A small investment is millions of dollars from back in the 90s.
Sure.
And that continues with many things. Now, the cool thing is it's taken before, let's say your great grandpa invested in the railroads or oil, right?
Yeah.
It took them decades and decades and decades to grow their great wealth, right?
Yeah.
People in real estate took them usually a long time to build that real estate up. The great thing is Bitcoin and crypto and all these things is time compression. AI and blockchain are the two big ones. And then we're adding quantum computing. So you could see 30 years of evolution in less than 5. So imagine being able to get 30 years of growing your company done in 5, right? So instead of 3 decades, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So, but the mistake people do is they're thinking they're going to be super rich in a few months.
Exactly.
And that, even with crypto and all that stuff, is typically not going to happen on a consistent level. Or they treat it like gambling. So they become day traders. And I don't know any day traders that are decades rich. There's probably some, but that's the exception, right?
Yeah. Like the GameStop guys.
Well, just people who are day trading. Oh, I
Bradley
can craft
Cooper
a
on
chart,
Limitless.
blah, 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 you know.
Yeah.
They're just not. And so then one thing that you want to do is, let's say you have a big bag. You've built up from 0 to $500,000, let's just say, or a couple $100,000. People, when they're sitting on cash, it's burning a hole in the pocket to either go buy a Lambo or a new Raptor or whatever they want to buy, a house or whatever they want to do. But what they have to think about is, well, what other income producing assets can I transfer that into?
Yeah.
And so like if I were to, in 2017, I sold a good chunk of my Bitcoin. We mined it for $170 a Bitcoin and exited close to 19,000 per Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
And I just bought more real estate because that was asset transfer. Now, hindsight's worth a lot. I'm like, if I held on to my Bitcoin, maybe I would have made a little bit more from 19,000 to 106,000 today. But then again, a building that I bought for $3 million is worth 17 million today that I bought in 17. So it's, it's okay. You don't beat yourself up, right? On those kind of moves. But when you spend, let's say you're buying anything, think about this. Is this thing going to go up in value or is it going to go down in value? If it goes down in value, really restrain on buying that. If it's going to go up in value or has a good chance to do so, well, then make the move, right? That's what you want to do. But most people, they're just living emotionally to these wants that they think are going to make them feel better. But that's putting Band-Aids on a bullet hole.
Yeah.
It ain't going to make you feel better.
Well, there's a lot of depression out there, and that's how they feel better. That's how I deal with
Tyson's
my shoes.
over here like getting called out for his retail therapy.
I love shoes.
No, I like the direction this is going because a lot of times is like, especially with social media and everything now that everybody has access to like blasting their opinion online, right? It used to be limited to who had access to the media. And then the introduction of like, MySpace, or I mean, you could even go all the way back to like AOL and all that stuff. And then it goes Facebook, and then it goes Instagram, and then it goes to everything we've got going on now. And I feel like sometimes there is this great divide of kind of like the eat the rich type versus kind of like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So you coming from, the background you have, like seeing your parents just bust their tails to get to, just to provide life to you versus now you're saying, kind of alluding to, the life I'm sure that you wanted to provide for your parents. Yeah. How do we bridge that gap of like taking everybody who thinks that being wealthy and investing and getting to this other side of the valley is so evil versus you get some people that maybe have old money that have never actually really fought for anything and they just kind of like,
I don't think you can transform people's minds. People don't tend to change that much unless some catastrophic event happens in their life.
Sure.
So if they've been trained since their child is money is the root of all evil and things like that, they're probably going to be a brokey forever. And that's okay because less than 1% of the population controls 99% of the world's resources. And that's been that way in the medieval days. That's been that way in the Roman days.
Sure.
It's just like, that's just how it is. Now, what's interesting enough, if you've heard great kings, like there was a king of Ireland and he was actually a slave, and then he escaped and he came back and became the king of Ireland. Through history, people have been able to rise to greatness because they're that anomaly. But if you want to be an anomaly, you need to act like an anomaly, which means you're going to be unbalanced. and you're going to be kind of psychotic. You're going to be, it's like Star Wars. You guys have all seen Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The line between good and evil is such a thin line. It's just, what are you using your energy for, you know? And think about countries. We say the U.S. is like the good guy. We're the good guys here as Americans. But typically whoever just wins the war tells the story to the children of who was the good guys.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of atrocities that we've committed. There's plenty of atrocities that our enemies have committed. And whoever wins, you know, there's an old saying is, the Jews say this, is God is on the side of the army, typically with the largest artillery and most ammunition. You know, and so that's why if you're good financially, you have a better chance of winning life's war, right? Because life is a hard struggle. Yeah, so I don't think you're going to change people, you know. And I know you guys do this thing on mental health. You know, there is a simple cure for anxiety and stress and depression. You want to know?
Yeah.
Unless you have something totally broken in your wiring. Okay.
Yeah, like this is like a chemical
Kind of
situation.
like bipolar.
Well, it's typically
Sorry.
you're fighting yesterday's battles and tomorrow's battles, and you're not here today executing. Anxiety is typically caused because you know you can do something, but you're not. But you know you can take action, but you're not. You're procrastinating. You're putting it off. You're making an excuse. And if you're executing, you're so busy executing towards clear physical, financial, and spiritual goals, you have to write them down. Most people don't spend enough time just to write down what they actually want. Like I said with all my employees and coach them, like, what do you want? One guy's like, I want a house. One guy's like, I want to pay debt down. One guy's like, I want to be rich. I want to go on vacation all the time. You're never going to have it, I tell them. You're never going to have that consistently. And they're like, really? Oh, that sucks. And I'm like, well, unless you change one mindset. You got to get very clear down to every last detail. So one of my guys, he's like, hey, I want to get a really great house. I'm like, okay, well, how much is it? Go on Zillow, look at it, or realtor.com or something. So he's like, okay, this house is $700,000. I need this much down. This is the interest rate. This is the kind of loan I'm going to use. This is how much more I need to sell annually, monthly, weekly, hourly. And every day he knows exactly where he's at and what actions it takes to get that. And to make it believable, I said, now, are there any other millionaires in this company that are sales guys in our stores that are doing what you do? Yeah, there's 3 of them. Well, why don't you take them to lunch and ask them how they did it? And they told them all the exact same thing was, oh, Dan told me how to do it 10 years ago. It took me 10 years, but now I'm a millionaire. So they got very clear on what they wanted, physically, financially, spiritually. Some people think to be, like, I'm going to be turning 54 next month, and people say, Dan, at 54, how do you look so young? How do you stay trim? How do you stay buff?
I would not have thought that at all.
No.
And I say, just move 30 minutes a day and eat 1,500 calories a day and try to get 150 grams out of this protein. Clean. And, you know, there you go. If you want to eat a donut once in a while, go ahead, but that's going to add, and you're going to have to deficit, right? Move 30 minutes a day. Do you need to run? No. Just walk briskly. Lift weights 3 days a week to keep your muscle mass up, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to be ripped.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is kind of like, it's funny some of the things you're saying because
Very easy.
I feel like social media overcomplicates a lot of things, right? Everybody's got a course. Everybody's got something that they're selling. Everybody's got the answer to this. I mean, on the creator side of things, there's entire workshops on how to create the hook and pull someone in.
Don't do the courses. Go
Well,
into,
that's
just
what
go
I'm
into
saying.
Chat GPT. How do I be physically, financially, spiritually strong? Give me a 1-year game plan.
It's funny
to
because
hit-
we do that all the time.
To hit these goals.
I think
And
I
the
might
robot will tell
be
you.
I might be the only human in history that's ever given AI anxiety because the amount of times I mean my ChatGPT, I've named her. Me and Lex, we get along real good. But like the thing is a lot of what you're saying is totally hitting. And we've talked to a couple other people about this, that there is obviously like the clinical side, right? There is the chemical imbalances and things like that. But there is so many people that are living with situational and seasonal mental health issues because of, like you're saying, they're stuck in these ruts because it's worrying about the worrying.
You know
and
what
then it makes
usually
it
is
go
though?
on and on and
Lack
on.
of action, lack of movement, not proper sleep, not proper diet. Simple as that. I guarantee you, get 8 hours of sleep for a week straight. Every morning, walk for 30 minutes, take your shirt off, enjoy the sun, right? Do that. Meditate for 30 minutes, right? And eat 1,500 calories of clean, primarily grass-finished protein a day. 99.9% of people will lose depression, anxiety.
That's interesting.
Mine was having the hard conversation.
Yeah.
That was causing a lot of anxiety to the point where I'm like, okay, I gotta learn how to say no. I gotta learn how to like take myself into account. And that's when I started doing that, it sucked at first because it was just like, oh, I'm gonna want to say this. But now it's like, yeah, we can't do that. I'm sorry, man. We just can't. And my anxiety has like plummeted because of it.
And another thing you can do is be alone. You don't know about isolationist, but take 2 weeks and don't go to lunch with anybody. Mm-hmm. Just go to the mountains. Go camping alone. Live alone. Think about why you exist.
My wife probably thinks I already do that.
Breathe the air.
Too much.
Talk to the animals. Hug a tree. Bring all your food in your pack with you and survive. Be cold at night. Be hot in the day or cold in the day. And feel pain. Because pain makes you realize your mortality and it makes you appreciate just existing. But a lot of people, they want so much comfort, they won't subject themselves for pain. Or if you just want short-term pain, join jiu-jitsu, do some MMA, get socked in the face a few times, feel some pain. Because most people are so comfortable, they don't feel the pain to be grateful for their existence.
Well, and you kind of miss out on some sensations. What's funny is to that point is I've since like the marathon training and getting the longer miles in like
that's painful. Huh?
Yeah. So I have like basically my coach has this essentially this training. He's like, you need to treat this like a Bible. He's like, you do not miss a day. Like it is spelled out for me the last 16 weeks up until the race. And because we're doing Utah Valley, you start way up Provo Canyon, and then you're going down until like the last 7 miles.
That's cool.
So 19 miles or so of the course is all downhill through the mountains. And so I've started doing those, and those are my favorite runs I've ever done. Running through the canyons.
You're getting a lot of dopamine.
So much fresh air. You don't realize that.
He'll
like
call me after he's
actually
done.
Oh, I get these massive runner
like
high.
Crazy high.
Yeah. And I'm like, the cool thing is I'm running into like, there's people, since the weather's getting better, there's people everywhere. Everybody's doing it. Like there's a ton of people running down the mountain, running up the mountain, biking and all that stuff.
That's good.
And so it's really cool to see this almost like different side of the community. I didn't know that like every Saturday, all you weirdos are up and down the mountain. And it's like, now I'm one of the weird. Now literally like driving up the mountain at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
That's not weird though. I mean, ancient man would spend a lot of physical time hiking and trying to find something to eat.
Mm-hmm. But that's the funny thing is that like as a guy who's been very sedentary for a long time, right? The thought of getting up at 5 o'clock or 4:45 like I did on Saturday to go meet my friend Corey, drive up the mountain 20 miles, park the car, and then start running by 6 a.m. And I'm like, and I got kids at a soccer game at 11. I'm like, that's where like, almost like the optional anxiety was coming in of like the night before of like, oh, I don't want to, and I'm going to have to. But by the time I was done with that run, even though there were some really hard points, I'm like, it's 10:30 in the morning. I just ran 18 miles and some people are just getting their coffee. Like that for me was a high. Not that it was like a comparison thing, was like, I just did something that very few people are going to be doing today. Mm-hmm. And it was improving my mental health. I got to go see all of this beautiful scenery that like, if you drive up the mountains, most of the time you're cruising past it 20, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. I'm cruising past it.
Have you guys heard of 75 Hard, Andy Frisillis?
Oh, yeah,
we've done it.
Yeah, we did that.
So you know why that fails?
Because it's not really sustainable.
Yeah.
We did it and we never did it again.
Yeah.
Well, if you take, let's say, 30 years of your life, right? Mm-hmm. And each year is 365 days, right? So let's just do the math on that. You got to do 10,950 hard, but it's not that hard, which your intensity level should probably be at like a 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. You just need to do it for 10,950 days. That's the secret. That's the secret to wealth. You don't need to go on this work sprint, burn yourself out. You just need to be consistently, we call it suppressive fire. I call it suppressive fire. You have to keep laying rounds on your target. And even if you're not that accurate, you're going to hit.
Yeah.
You're going to hit, and it's going to keep others' heads down. And you just have to be consistent with that, though. So this thing where it talks about, losing weight, gaining muscle, doing all these things, though, to be sustainable, it just needs to be consistent and planned and written and scheduled, right? Yeah. But it's easy to say because everybody slips, including myself. But if you keep reading that every morning, you look at your goals, you look at your whys, you look at why are you doing it? Well, you got a picture of maybe your children, your wife, things you want to build, you want to buy. how you want to look, how you want to feel. You write down the emotions you want to feel, right? And all people are driven by pain and pleasure, right? And really they're looking for this very high level of pleasure with very low amounts of pain.
Which is impossible.
It's tough, right? So I think just simply getting clear on those goals is really what people need to do. Schedule on your phone, execute daily, right? Even if, so I remember COVID. I
almost actually died from it.
Yeah. So I got it, and I was like coughing up and all this stuff. And I just hiked for 14 days. Just didn't talk, just 14 days of walking, just walking, eating a little, walking a little, you know, and it's just like you get to know yourself. And the worst case scenario is you die. Who cares? Because if you're dead and you've been a pretty decent dude and you've done good, then I think God knows that. And then you're a raindrop and you go back into the ocean and there you go.
Yeah, see, I was in the ICU for 6 days.
Shit.
Yeah,
that complicates things. Huh?
Well, that and yeah, it was basically that. But no, then they did an experimental drug that they just like, this just came out. We're going to give you, mind if we try it? You either get, most of the time you're going to get worse. Sometimes it works. Nope. And within an hour, I was breathing on my own.
That's good. I'm glad you're with us, dude.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it would be really weird just having a show by myself.
You guys both lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, I've lost 70, he's lost 60.
You feel good?
Oh, I feel great.
And we're going to do High Rocks in December. And
is your mental health better?
Yes. It is. That's kind of one of the points that we were getting at with all this stuff and why we do. When we first started the podcast, we kind of had that idea of like, follow along as we do this. And we did 75 hard. And we both lost a good chunk of weight. And we gained a bunch of it back because it wasn't sustainable. And then since we got on with Mountain Ops and we have a coach that we work with and stuff, realizing that it is this consistent small tweaks and changes, and that you adopting it as like part of your lifestyle and not just like, oh, I did 75 hard one time versus like now I identify as a guy who enjoys running. Good. Versus in October, like I couldn't even run a mile, and I had all this anxiety of like, you know, why we signed up for the marathon and the half marathon was to prove some things to ourselves and use like some symbolism behind crossing finish lines, and obviously have viewers and listeners kind of follow along the journey of like, hey, dad bods to rad bods type jokes, right? Like, hey, if we can take, you know, guy with knee pain, you know, all these, you know, knee pain problems, and a guy with me that had a bunch of, you know, other like health issues and back issues and mental health stuff, and we can train for, you know, to a half and a full without doing 5, 10, 15 Ks, all these things, like you guys can do that too. Like that was the whole point of it. And now it's to the point where, you know, I'm getting the right tools, going to get in the, you know, the feet scan, get the right shoes. He's getting the right shoes, prepping right, nutrition's right, training right, and realizing that it is all the little things that have added up, all the little miles that have added up to being able to do this. And now it's like, we've got the bug of like, it's not just wanting to run the marathon or wanting to do these things. It's like, I legitimately feel better and I'm happier. I feel like I have some cloudiness gone, and I look forward to these different aspects of my life that were never
I get some of my best ideas running.
Oh, I know.
For Copper John's, I'm like, shut up. I need to do this. And then I'm like, hurry and stop, and I hurry and write it down on my phone, and then I keep running. But it's just like, you really do get a lot of mental clarity off of it.
That's like your alone time too, right?
Exactly.
You're just fighting your body, right?
Well, and the funny thing you just say that is this run that I did on Saturday, Corey and I ran together. Corey went and he had the opposite experience. He went and got shoes the day before too, but I had like a super experienced runner helping me get the right shoes. He had some like part-time kid that had barely started working at the store. Oh. They gave him the wrong shoes, and Corey was hurting.
Oh, toenails fall off.
Bad. Well, it was like his knee kept catching, and it was completely the wrong shoes. So he and I ended up splitting at about mile 13. Oh, wow. So I had the last 5 on my own, and that was a mental battle because I was 14 was the longest I had done up until that point, and then I'm like fighting myself jokingly. I'm like, I could call an Uber and nobody would know. I could finish this for my social media post and nobody would know. But it was as soon as I got past that mile and a half where I was struggling and did the last 2 on my own, that's when it was like a mental hurdle.
Finished?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, good.
It was
That'll help you with entrepreneurship.
Well, that's what I was saying is like I was realizing there's so many lessons to be learned in here. Just that was like my body could still be going. It was like 6 months later and I'm doing 18, 20 miles when I couldn't do one before, and realizing that it's these little bites that you take all along the way, and then applying that to, like you said, the entrepreneurship type stuff.
So question for you, totally unrelated.
Okay.
Burnout. I work a full-time job. We do dad bods, create content, all that kind of stuff, do Copper Johns. At one point, you would say I was sleeping maybe 2 to 3 hours a night.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was rough.
And I mean, I gained 50, 60 pounds in a couple of years. And then so I weighed 350 when I started doing this running, and now I'm down to 270.
Good work.
Thanks. So that's 80.
Yeah, dude.
Shut the front door.
You're like, wow, I'm awesome.
You're doing good.
But burnout, there's a lot of us, we're talking like, first of all, I'm going to start treating this like a bill. I don't know why that never just dawned on me. It's just so smart. Like, it's the dumbest, easiest thing to do. But how do you avoid burnout? Because these guys are striving really hard to provide for their moms, for their dads, for their husbands and wives. So how do you avoid the burnout? And if you do have the burnout, do you just work through it? Because that's what I did.
It's simple. It's like, you guys ever been to a buffet?
Have we ever been to a buffet? Do you know the name of the podcast? Dad bods and beers. yeah.
This you treat this like going to a buffet. You see, sometimes you go to a buffet, you can tell someone's character of how they treat a buffet. And also you can look in their car window when no one's looking and see if it's messy or not. But you go to the buffet, and really when you go to a buffet, you could eat as much as you want. People think they need to get their money's worth, right? But really, ideally, if you want to feel good, you're going to pick, let's say, prime rib if you're really into that. And maybe you'll have a little bit of cheesecake because you really want a little slice and you just want to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little.
And maybe you'll have your favorite diet soda to be a little splurge, right? Okay.
See, mine's always the ice cream.
Or ice cream, just a little bit, right? Because you just want to taste it and feel a little buzz. Fine. But when you go to the buffet, it's just like running all the different things. Like some people I know will run like 10 companies and just burn themselves out. And what you do is you prioritize and you write down all the things at the buffet. You could write down all the things in life that you're working on right now. And you do a brain dump onto a sheet. Then you put an A by things that really move the needle for you, a B by things that are meh, and C that are things that are crap and just a waste of time, right? You take your A's, let's say you have 5 A's or 10 A's, and you number them 1 through 10. Let's say you have 10, right? And then you pick 3, and never, if you're just an overachiever, never more than you can count in one hand. You have to delete things off that list, because if you're spread too thin, if you're a jack of all trades, you'll be good at nothing. You got to really start focusing in. And a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, struggle with that. Oh, that sounds really good. This sounds really... But what I found, though, is like, you only have a certain amount of mana. It's life force.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you use it to cast fireballs if you're a wizard, right? If you spend it on anger, if someone flips you off and you flip them off back, you've just given them this much of your mana, half your mana. You're pissed off, right? If you're mad at somebody in a conflict, you're giving up your mana. Now, if you're using your mana to run, to work on your business, to call new clients, to follow up, you're using that towards the things that move the needle. So you just have to be conscious. And do you guys know the 4 levels of consciousness?
I feel like we do. You're probably going to remind us, though.
Yeah.
So you have unconscious incompetence. When you're born, you shit your pants, and that's what you do.
Oh, we're not supposed to right now?
you're like, I'm not supposed to keep doing that?
Yeah, so you don't know, right? But it doesn't mean your little kid's bad. It's just they don't know.
Yeah.
Then there's conscious incompetence, right? So you're like, oh, I know I shit my pants, dude. Then there's conscious competence. You're like, oh, ooh, I gotta poo. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. Then pretty soon, now you are unconsciously competent in that you just do your business, right? Mm-hmm. But that's how it becomes with running a business, making money, anything like that. But you have to first isolate. You have to be aware of your stupidity, because if most people run in unconscious stupidity, like all the time, unconscious incompetence, you got to just elevate to that level, and then life gets good, physically, financially, spiritually. Now, one thing you can also do is audit your competency circle. So you take the 5 people you hang out with. You've heard that's important.
Yeah.
So let's say you have Billy, you guys hang out with, right? And you rate him physically, financially, and spiritually. He's a fat ass. He's 400 pounds. I give him a 1. Oh, he's like worth $100 million. I give him 10 for money, right? Spiritually, he's actually really good. He meditates a lot and all that. So let's give him a 9. Take that number, add it up, divide it by 3. Now do it for yourself. If you average out the people you're hanging out with, you add up all their numbers divided by 3, right? And it's significantly lower than yours, you're going to not move. Now, if those people are all significantly higher than you, right, and you're like the dumbass in the room, you're only going to get better because their habits will become your habits. It's success.
That's
by
why I'm
osmosis.
doing so much better than I was.
But people will say, "But I got this friend from high school. He's my friend." Look, don't be a douchebag and divorce your friend totally.
Yeah.
But show up to his birthday once in a while. But that's
Yeah.
it. But it's like watching your burrito cook in the microwave. You want to sit there and watch that burrito cook in the microwave and fry your brain? No. I mean, if you got to nuke it. Okay, fine. But don't dwell in that area. And a lot of people dwell with a bunch of losers, physically, financially, and spiritually, because it makes them feel like they're a higher level and they're okay. It makes them feel like I'm actually really great. But actually, tell yourself in the morning, I really suck at these things compared to these. People say don't compare. Compare. Like, look at how great you could be, and they're no smarter than you, right? And just divorce and remove all those lower vibration humans out of your life, and suddenly you're operating at this level. Then you can actually help those people that can't help. You're going to have family members, so right? You can't choose them per se. Let's say a little brother or whatever it is. And if you're operating up here, you're going to be able to rub off on him and help him, and financially, spiritually, physically.
Well,
right?
the thing is about advice like this, right? Sometimes people will take that as like almost like cold-hearted advice, right? It's talking about low vibrational
cool.
and like but it's pertinent. But at the same time, before cameras are rolling, we were talking about how like you love to see your friends win.
Yes.
You love to see people win. Like even as having had a mentor and being a mentor yourself, you want to see people win. But at the same time, which is our whole motto for Dad Bods and Beards, is that it starts with you. Nobody can force you into making these decisions. Nobody can force you into like if this is where you're going to choose to stay and who you're going to spend your time with. You can't act surprised when nothing is going like different for you or it's going.
You know how
worse.
you be a good dad? People ask me, how do you be a good dad? My kids turned out decent, right?
Yeah.
No one's perfect. By example, you can tell them anything. What you say doesn't matter. What you do is all that matters. That's all that matters.
Well, and
I have
it's,
some really hardworking kids too. Not gonna lie.
well, it's funny you say that as I've got a very intelligent little 9-year-old girl, and extremely intelligent.
Well, you guys are working on improving and getting better. And you're probably doing better than 99% of the people out there.
Can I do a little? Sorry to cut you off. A little proud dad moment. So the 3 kids that can work. One is working with my oldest is working with gifted children from ages 2 to 8. My one daughter is working with gifted adults, and then my other son is now just got done. So now he's going to be a CNA in a retirement center, and I'm just like, dang, I don't know. I just think that's really cool.
The kindness probably comes from seeing a lot of your kindness
Well, it's my wife's too. She's
and
amazing.
her kindness, right?
But it's just they're hardworking. They care about people. They love people, and they just want to help. And then my son just went and said, "I want to be a therapist because I know I've seen how much it's helped you, Dad." And I'm just like, okay.
Well, it's like you were just saying with example, and I was saying the bringing up my daughter is you don't realize like how observant these kids are. I had a little bit of a shortcoming moment recently, and my 9-year-old, who I didn't think was witnessing my shortcoming, left me a little note telling me, giving me some advice on how she perceived that I could have handled that differently. That's a frying pan to the face, is when your 9-year-old's giving you some advice on how to react differently.
They're honest, though, right?
And it's they're brutally honest, and at the same time it's like, well, she had to have gotten that from somewhere. So somewhere along the line, her mother and I have said something to the effect of like teaching her a better way of like handling an emotional situation. So it was a very humbling moment, but also a little bit of like a parenting win that they feel comfortable sharing like some tough love with you, right? But at the same time, they're a kid, so they're gonna also tell you
Kids are smart,
when
man.
you're ugly.
They're so honest.
So being a mentor,
Yeah.
how has that helped you with your resilience? Because it seems like you're really good at explaining things. Seems like you really do care about people. And so how does that help you and motivate you to continue going? Because I've noticed that when Logan and I do this, and we get phone calls, we get messages from a lot of people who are struggling throughout the whole world. How has that, it really helps us and it motivates us to continue, keep going, because we know we're making a difference. So how has that helped you in your own personal life and business and stuff like that?
Well, when you teach people, we're all hypocritical to some degree. I'm hypocritical to some degree, and we all slip up and screw up. And it just makes you check yourself. It's like, okay, I'm teaching my men and women that I teach to do this, and I'm doing this crap. What is the deal? And one example is during COVID, I started doing nicotine during Zoom calls, like chewing Zins and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I'm like, it's probably not something I want them to do. What am I doing? Like, let's check myself, you know? My daughter actually called me out too. She's like, Dad, like you're teaching all these people to like try to be better, and you're here like stuffing these Zins like 10 a day in your face. Now you're on level 6. I think I come on level 12, and I'm like, oh, geez. So that's, you know, it's because, I mean, we're all imperfect. And when you teach, though, hopefully we all use it as, you know, you got to practice what you preach.
So true.
You know, but you tell your students, it's in our code of honor in our company. It's be willing to be called and, you know, called out and called yourself, you know, and call people out and not be pissed about it, you know.
So that's a talent, because I'm still learning that how you're able to. It's like kind candor is like Gary. Is it Gary Vee who says kind candor?
Yeah, Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, where you just like you tell them the truth, but it's out of love because you're telling them because you want them to succeed. And so I've really struggled with that.
It's hard.
Like your wife, like when you're struggling with maybe the way you're communicating, we're both communicating with each other. It's like, hey, I've been talking about being vulnerable this whole time on this podcast and about Logan, and then now I don't want to talk about it. And so I'm like, hey, I gotta eat my comments and just do it and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know. It's like you said, we're a little hypocritical at times, but I think that's a perfect way to say it. When we mentor and when we're doing this stuff, it really does keep us in check.
We're only a few chromosomes away from being a gorilla.
I'm
chimp.
part.
No, I mean, seriously.
I was gonna say, he might be a few
100 crows against a gorilla.
Yeah.
But really, we're just naked gorillas. We got a little bit of beard hair. Right?
Yeah, right.
Sure.
But, I mean, we're just animals, you know, and we're not perfect. So I guess the big thing is just every day is review what you've written down physically, financially, and spiritually. Review it and be like, hey, am I holding to this
Do you journal?
on that? No.
Okay.
I just simply, this is what I want, and these are the actions I take. I schedule them in, and there you go. Now, journaling can be also meditation. I mean, it was 15, 30 to 30 minutes a day, where you're just asking yourself the question, did I move towards those 3 things? Did I do what I promised myself I'd do, or did I not do it? Did I let myself down? If I did let myself down, you don't beat yourself up. You just recommit and execute, right?
So
You're human.
one point that I want to make to everybody who's listening or watching or whatever, before I get kind of into the last questions I want to ask you is, of all of the different insanely successful people that we've had the pleasure of sitting down and interviewing, which when you calculate what your time is worth and what some of these other people we've sat down time is worth, and then the fact that you guys drive here and sit down is mind-boggling. But the reoccurring theme that almost every single one of you guys have talked about is designing, in one shape of another, designing your life, designing your business, and like having a plan or like a program or like just like a plan of attack. Meditation, like frequency, vibration, like you said, low vibrational people, and like, you know, where you talked about physicality, financial, spiritual side. Like there's always those 3 always get brought up. And then the last one is, you know, almost like the inability to have like a victim mentality. So unfortunately, we all have this ability deep inside us to victimize ourselves based off of our situations, our relationships, the scenarios, all of this stuff. But everybody that I've met that has gotten to a point where anybody would love to be at, it's like those 3 main things. I'm not going to go over them again. I just did, but that's, but my point. So
ADD's kicking in.
yeah. So like the point is that and I'm only speaking for myself, is because I just had this conversation with somebody the other day of like not being the guy I used to be. And I don't claim to be anywhere that I want to be yet, but I'm working towards it. I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to be less like that guy I used to be. And it's taken a lot of work even just to get to this point.
You know how you get over like accomplishment? You can't let it get to your head too much, right? You know why Chinese people bow to each other? My dad taught me this a long time.
Why is that?
Because they're saying the deity in me acknowledges the deity in you.
Oh.
So everybody, all human life has the same value. Our souls have the same value. Inside, we're all those deities. And no matter how much money you make, no matter how buff you are, you're no better than anyone else. I'm no better than
I love
anyone
that.
else. You know, and if you look at people with that level of like they're an equal soul, and the only reason why they're being unreasonable or angry, whether it's a customer, a wife, a friend, your buddy, it's just because they're crying out for help. It's a cry for help. It's an injured person. And if you look at it that way, when you're injured, maybe somebody has some empathy and helps you through that without an expectation of something in return. And so next time you see someone, just give them a little bow, like a little Bruce
I love
Lee
that.
one.
Yeah, that was really, dude. You're awesome, man. I appreciate you being
Try
here.
to be a human, man.
Yeah,
I like that, and I think that's that. I want to on that note, I want to pair it with one last question: is where do you in your moments where you could feel sorry for yourself, going back through all of the years, all the way back to when you were talking about doing time in juvie, to where you're at now and what you've been able to provide for yourself, your family, all that stuff. In those moments of victim mentality you could have gotten to, or just like the complaining and the woe is me, like how do you, with the perspective you have now, how do you like avoid or even give someone advice to avoid those situations?
I listened to my grandma's little Yoda voice in my head. And she said, Dan, I asked her, I said, Grandma, what's the most important thing in life? One lesson. She said, never have self-pity. Never have self-pity. If you're going to wall in self-pity, just end yourself. That's pretty harsh. She's like, but if you're of sound mind and body, then you're doing better than many, many people on this planet. And if you live in America, she says, we came from China to escape. If you live in America and you can't be a millionaire and be ripped and smart and do all these things, then you're just lazy and you're having self-pity. So don't have it. And I was like, holy crap.
That came from grandma?
Yeah, well, because the thing is like these people in China, like my relatives, they lived a very good life there. Communists came in, shot everyone in the head in the streets. Every entrepreneur was put
Like
in a prison
literally?
camp. Oh yeah, they're executing
I
people in the
don't.
streets.
I guess I don't
Read
know.
a book?
Oh yeah,
You
took
know,
away.
if it's not Edward and Gia Kempton,
You believed in God and stuff, yeah, you go to a reconditioning communist camp, chop out your eyes, kill your children.
Goodness.
Like you were an entrepreneur. My uncle had one of the first Coca-Cola franchises in China back in the 40s. He put him in a rehabilitation camp. They cut out both of his eyes. He didn't get back into the U.S. He didn't get to the U.S. until like the 70s, like 20, 30 years in a prison camp, you know? And she's telling me these stories, and she's like, here, literally, you can do anything in America. No one's doing that to you.
yeah,
And
Interesting.
I'm like, so she's like, go get it. I'm
Shows
like,
the perspective too of like
I
having,
mean, if you've seen death and suffering, you realize we are literally at the best buffet in the whole world. We're sitting at it. And if you can't get a full belly at this buffet, I don't know what you're going to do.
Sure.
Like, we're at the best buffet.
Oh man, Dan. Well, this has been insanely enlightening. I love a lot of the advice that you gave.
Grandma's crazy.
Can
Grandma.
I, say
I love
one
grandma.
thing?
Yeah.
One more thing, because
Okay.
I absolutely just am like eating this up. When I lost my job in 2012, before I started Copper Johns, before I knew Logan, before anything like that, I was not doing self-pity, but I was working 3 part-time jobs, trying to find a full-time job. Like I was doing everything I could to make ends meet. But the whole thing is that I lost my train of thought. Crap.
It was so important.
It really was. I was so excited. It was so good.
We'll circle back.
Oh, I'm embarrassed.
No, but with that, you guys check out Dan. I'm sure you probably have your social medias.
Just Dan's millionaire code. Make sure it's blue check. I do run a crypto hedge fund. So there's 5 million fake accounts of me.
Oh, I'm sure.
So make sure it's Dan's
We'll
millionaire
link
code,
you
blue
on all
check.
that stuff.
Yeah. I
but
remember.
You do.
Yeah.
I want to hear it, dude.
There are so many people who helped me, and so many people who thought, just like, hey, we're going to help pay this so you don't lose your house or anything. And they didn't know it was that bad. They just wanted to help. And to me, your mentorship and what you're doing with other people and what we're trying to do is just be that bridge to help them, motivate them to continue. And I feel like that's what you're doing. And that, with Dad Boss, that's what we're doing.
You're doing good work, guys, man.
And I just really appreciate, like, everything you said really resonated with me today. So thank you.
Just guys, like, if you want good mentors will be brutal with you, and they will be transparent, and
You
they
need
will
it.
they will let you feel pain and actually inflict pain on you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's like wax on, wax off, Daniel-san.
Hey, that's okay because you said it.
Yeah.
But check
Daniel.
out Dan. We will link all of his stuff. And don't take this the wrong way, but the amount of value that is in a 45 to a 50-minute episode of something like this with a caliber of person like Dan Young is not something to be taken lightly. So take it for what it is.
And me.
And and Tyson too. So, but we love you guys, and we will check back with you next week.
All right. Have a good one, guys.